Notorious is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge.
Miami's 1980s cocaine cowboy era was followed by a wave of homegrown street gangs whose violence and legends now permeate local culture and hip-hop lyrics. Each crew emerged to seize territory and cash as the big drug cartels receded. We'll be discussing 7 infamous gangs, including the founding year, founders, and motives and downfalls. Miami's Boobie Boys gang rose in the mid-1990s under Kenneth Boobie Williams of Carol City. Boobie and associates built a billion-dollar cocaine pipeline, smuggling multi-ton loads from Panama to the Bahamas, and ruthlessly enforced their turf. Police later linked the Boobie Boys to dozens of murders, 35 by one count, and scores of shooting. Rick Ross, who grew up in Carol City, idolized Williams, calling him his mentor. By 2000, Williams and 6 others were convicted on racketeering and murder charges. In total, Boobie Boys' leader received life sentence and decades-long prison terms. Williams alone drew 3 life sentences. The Miami Boys, aka the Untouchables, began in the early 1980s as a loose-knit African-American drug dealing network in the South of Florida. It was founded by several Miami dealers. No single founder is named in the sources. They organized like a paramilitary syndicate, dividing territories into quadrants with ranks to run tracking. By 1986, they had expanded into Atlanta and Jacksonville to exploit higher prices. In Atlanta, they displaced local drug dealers until a citywide crackdown before the 1996 Olympics broke them up. In Jacksonville, their last holdout was created in 1999. By the late 1990s, law enforcement efforts, FBI-led busts, and interstate task forces dismantled the Untouchables. Many leaders were convicted or forced to flee. Zoe Pound is a Miami street gang found around 1990 by Haitian immigrants. It began as a self-defense group, reacting to racial attacks on Haitians in Miami. Over the 1990s, Zoe Pound shifted into organization crime, drug trafficking, armed robbery, murder, and spread from South Florida to states like Virginia, New York, and even the Bahamas. Members embraced the Haitian Creole imagery. Zoe means bone in Creole, and formed splinter crews like the Zoe Mafia family, ZMF. Police and federal agents moved against Zoe Pound after other gangs, Boobie Boys and John Doe's fell. In 2009, 6 top Zoe leaders were arrested in Florida on RICO drug charges. Notably, members of the Zoe faction were later linked to the 2018 murder of rapper XXXTentacion. The 2009 indictments and ongoing federal pressure have severely weakened Zoe Pound's operation in Miami. Terrorist Boys were a Haitian-American gang based in North Miami-Dade in the early 2000s. They took their name from calling themselves Baby Boys or Bad Boys Terrorist Boys, led by Johnny Coco Charles and associates. They specialized in retaliation-style violence. In March 2002, the Terrorist Boys made headlines by raiding a North Miami Beach pawn shop with a stolen SUV, smashing into the store and stealing 33 weapons, assault rifles, pistols, and machine gun. Downfall. By 2008, Miami-Dade prosecutors had assembled a federal RICO case against Johnny Charles and several terrorist boys. Charles and 4 others were indicted for murder and racketeering. They were arrested and convicted in 2009 and 2010, effectively ending the gang. The Myrtle Grove Boys were a violent street gang from the Myrtle Grove neighborhood of the Miami Gardens, Miami-Dade. Their name plays on the Myrtle Grove. They surfaced in the late 2000s selling heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, and using firearms in robberies and assaults. In June 2010, a joint FBI Miami Gardens PD operation indicted 15 Murder Group members and associates on federal drug, firearms, and identity theft charges. 13 members were charged with running a 2009 drug conspiracy. 4 were separately charged with being felons in the possession of weapons. U.S. Attorney statements emphasize that these arrests removed 15 members and associates of the violent Murder Boy Grove gang from the neighborhood. Post-indictment resulted in conviction by 2011. The Gym Gang was a mid-1990s crew of bodybuilders centered upon Sunset Gym, a North Miami weightlifting center, founded and led by gym manager Daniel Lugo with Noel, Adrian Doorball, and others. It was motivated by greed and bravado. They believed Tony Montana was the blueprint for hustling. The Sun Gym group kidnapped and extorted wealthy businessman Mark Schuyler and later abducted and murdered couple Frank Brigga and Christina Furton in 1997. Their exploits became the 2013 film Pain and Gain. Their downfall was in 1996 to 1998. Lugo, Doorball, and other members were arrested, tried, and convicted in Miami federal court on charges of kidnapping, murder, and racketeering. By 1998, all principal members were in prison. Doorball and Lugo got life sentences. With his leaders in prison, the Sun Gym Gang ceased to exist as the streets organization. Vonda's gang was an Overtown-based crime crew headed by a Vonda, black girl Dowling. They were dubbed Vonda's gang by police after Dowling's nickname. Vonda grew up in 1980s Miami and by the 1990s controlled a drug dealing cartel in Overtown. Her lieutenant was Robert Rara Sawyer. By the early 1990s, Vonda's gang entered a vicious turf war with the Boobie Boys, Carol City cartel, over open drug territory. A former member recalled that by 1993, the two crews were in a vicious gang war for Miami's drug turf. Law enforcement assembled a federal racketeering case in the early 2000s. In late 2003, Vonda Dowling, Vonda, was convicted on the RICO drug charges and sentenced to 20 years. Rara Sawyer took a plea for 40 years. The prosecution of Vonda's leadership effectively ended the gang. The Straight Drop Gang was a violent Miami street crew that surfaced in the mid-2000s. The group's name came from the slang for the uncut name, Straight Drop, reflecting its roots from the city's drug trade. Straight Drop established a reputation for brazen violence, often linked to retaliation shootings, nightclub beefs, and open-air drug dealing. Straight Drop had numerous conflicts which quickly gained notoriety through the high-profile incidents. In 2010, gang members were implicated in a brutal slaying of a Miami corrections officer and her 2-year-old son. Prosecutors described the attack as a targeted hit connected to the group's street disputes. The gang presence was also felt in South Beach, where members were also tied to deadly shootings outside nightclubs, incidents that shook Miami nightlife scene and drew national media attention. And the downfall was when law enforcement steadily targeted straight drop leaders with federal and state charges. By the early 2010s, Miami-Dade prosecutors had indicted multiple members for murders, racketeerings, and gun crimes. One of the most publicized cases saw a straight drop member sentenced to life. Common facts and context. I just want to say some quick facts. These gangs did not arise in a vacuum. Sociologists and criminologists note that economic hardship, social exclusion, and failed institutions push disadvantaged youth into gangs while the promise of the status, money, and protection pulls them in. In Liberty City, Overtown, and Little Haiti, poverty and lack of jobs left many young Black and Haitian American men with few alternatives. Gangs offered identity and belonging, their own social networks, and quick money from drug sales. As one study observes, gangs provide prestige and the sense of family that seemed like a rational choice for marginalized teens. Intimidation and initiation rituals are also enforced loyalty. Historical conflicts among these crews further entrenched them. Police reports describe an era of murder central on Miami Street. When one gang was busted, power vacuums opened for another. Thanks for watching.